Here we go. We are back. It is the Follow Up Media Podcast. I am Christian Lee, your host, my co-host, as always. He's always here. He never leaves. And as much as I abuse him, no, I'm just playing. I don't. It's Riley Austin.
Oh, yeah. I got a bunk bed here in the back.
Yep, that's what you want to call it. A bunk bed. This is I think around our 7th episode. And, we have dived into a multitude of topics. And because Follow Up Media is a full service production and marketing agency, we have a lot of services. We offer a lot of things. And we're going to kind of expand on a question we always get when we have identified a company, we've reached out, we understand that they're not using content creation. We hit them up, we, establish contact. We ask them if they've ever, considered using a podcast or video series for marketing, brand awareness, subject matter expert, thought leadership, all those things, building an authentic connection with their audience. And while most of them have gone, well, we've talked about it, we do get hit with like a question that's, it's an important question, and it's one that needs to be kind of defined and expanded on a little bit. And it's like, okay, if I do create a podcast, how are the ways that it's going to be discovered, right?
A lot of different ways.
There are a lot of different ways. And there's not just one answer, because every podcast will be discovered probably in all 3 of the main ways. It's just going to depend on the audience and how they use the individual platforms. Like, for instance, if we launch a podcast for a client, and we optimize their YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple, those are going to be your number one method of gaining attention. Now, for YouTube, their growing dominance in podcast consumption, audio and video, there's thumbnails, very enticing, thumbnails you use to get people to have their eyes essentially go to your intellectual property. So enticing thumbnails, their algorithm that, YouTube has created, it benefits by using consistent uploads, a cadence that's ongoing and kind of unwavering. And then, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, and then you've got, Apple Podcasts, they are the major podcast directory out there. If you launch correctly, there are ways, typically, and there's a short list of things that you would have to qualify for to get put on Apple's new and noteworthy. But that is a space that you can't even buy. But it's based on, following, a 3-episode minimum and how much engagement you get in the first, I think it's like 4 or 5 days. And that's like whether it be comments, downloads, it takes in a number of factors.
Yeah.
But if it gets enough traction, you could be featured on their new and noteworthy, which is like as soon as you open up Apple Podcasts, you'll see new and noteworthy.
Yeah.
Apple Podcast charts, ratings and reviews definitely affect visibility. Spotify's algorithm differs from YouTube and Apple in a few ways. Spotify has done something pretty cool where now you can go on to Spotify and basically create polls to get people to interact with certain pieces of content that might be within your podcast. The first time I saw the SEO from a podcast description and title really work,
I think I know where this is going.
This might, be a little awkward.
Yeah.
Me kind of putting it back out there. So
If you're in the car with your kids, then good.
You might want to turn it up.
Yeah. Right.
So, and just to give you an example. So I was on and part of a podcast called the Man Fuse podcast, and it was kind of a pop culture. We talked about news, we talked about guy stuff, we talked about whatever. So on this particular episode, I was jokingly telling my co-host that, believe it or not, there was a way that you could breathe with your testicles. And so I launched into the 10-step process of breathing with your testicles. I queued up some meditation music. I dropped my voice real low and soft. I don't know if it was soft, but it was real gravelly.
Mhm.
And I started to walk him through what it would take to breathe with your testicles. It was really funny. And that particular episode, we had titled it How to Breathe with Your Balls.
Mhm.
You know, not my finest hour, I guess, but whatever.
Happy
So,
hour.
but it's worth noting that in the episode description of every podcast episode is like SEO rich, fertile ground. Okay. So what you put in your episode description and your titles can get tracked through Google search. And so that was the first part of that particular episode, was how to breathe with your testicles. That's what we titled it. In the episode description, it said, in this episode, Christian explains to Ben that breathing with your testicles is a real possibility and how we might go around teaching this to the world. It was really funny. But the second part of that episode, we actually got on one of our friends. He's a men's life coach expert, for men's health. He used to own a men's barber, like in a very wealthy part of Buckhead in Atlanta, and it was called the Grooming Lounge. And his name is P. Ruse, and I dare say his name on another podcast episode because I'm going to explain to you the rise and fall of P. Ruse Sarshar. No. So we got him on after I explained to Ben how he could breathe with his balls. All right. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so in the episode description, I said, hey, I showed Ben how to breathe with his balls. And then we spoke with men's lifestyle expert and men's health expert and coach, P. Ruse Sarshar. That was it. That was all I mentioned in the text. But we talked to P. Ruse on that episode for about 30 minutes. So to shorten this whole thing up, about 6 months later, I get a very panicked phone call from my co-host. And I didn't answer it. And he kept calling back. And finally, I'm like, what, man? What? And he said, dude, you have got to get P. Ruse's name off of that episode. And I go, why? What happened? And he goes, well, they tried to get P. Ruse's son, who's little, he's like 5 years old at the time, into a Manhattan private school. And they Googled P. Ruse's name. And 4 results down in the Google search, the episode of How to Breathe with Your Balls came up. They didn't accept his kid, which is, I'm just dumbfounded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. Not that his kid didn't get in school, because this actually was a pretty bad thing. His wife was pissed. His dad, who is an Iranian, used to work for like the Iranian like secret military, kill you with 2 fingers. I don't know like what it was. But P. Ruse is an Iranian American whose family escaped Iran when the mullahs came into power, which is like kind of current day Iran. Iran used to be like a happening, like people would go to Iran like in the 70s to like party. It used to be like a party spot before the current administration took over and started, their dictatorship without even going down that path. P. Ruse's dad was all upset. P. Ruse's wife probably wouldn't let him sleep in his own bed for a certain amount of time, his kid. So I was joking, I ruined his kid's future. So I did what any good friend would do. I went home and I took his name off of that episode. But that taught me something right there about how powerful the links, the names, and what you put in your SEO playground of an episode description, essentially.
Yeah.
Has a lot of impact and a lot of discoverability. Like, who would have known?
That's
So
crazy.
what did I do? I took his name off, and then resaved it. 2 months later, I get another phone call. Another panicked co-host. Hello? Yes? I thought I told you to take his name off of that episode. I'm like, I did, man. I took it off the day that you asked me to. Well, the power of how to breathe with your balls lives on, because he was in a bank meeting and the bankers researched his name, and once again, his name was affiliated with breathing with your testicles. Now, I don't know, I didn't ever get, and I'm like, man, I have no control over it. I already did what I did.
Yeah.
That's your second method of discoverability. Okay, I mean, there's not a better example than breathing with your balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but that is huge. I mean, it really is. So whatever your brand is, whatever your industry is, whatever you are the expert of, laying down what you're talking about in your every episode description that has all your links, your guest information, has a huge possibility of being discovered from Google search.
Right.
Just your normal Google searches. Method 2, which is huge. I mean, that's number 2. And then number 3 is word of mouth and your social media, your own social media network, or your current book of business, meaning you probably got a book of business because you're in business. Otherwise, we probably won't be going down any road with you,
Right.
because that's just, we identify businesses that we help out and we deal with. So that business is in business because they have business. Can I be any more redundant? Or can it be simplified anymore? So if you don't have a newsletter, we suggest starting one and we help out with that. And therefore you can market your podcast to your existing audience. Same on social media, people that follow you, subscribers, followers, friends, whatever you want to call them, is another part of your audience that you've built in whatever capacity. Now, you might have your business audience, your business page, but then you might have your personal page. And you can really utilize both to get your content out there working for you and establishing brand awareness, thought leadership, and subject matter expert, and establishing yourself as the subject matter expert. Essentially, all we're doing digitally is going, hey, we're over here. This is what we do. This is why you should use us over the other 1,000 options you have, because we know what the hell we're talking about.
Right.
You know what you're talking about. You execute for your clients. We execute for ours. And essentially, it's when you really break it down, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. There's a
Yes.
difference between YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you don't know how to do the like you said, the descriptions and do it right, it's going to have different results.
Yeah, but those platforms, those 3 are like your biggest podcasting, platforms as far as being discovered. But the SEO side of things, through that same discoverability on those platforms, you've got a very fertile episode description that you would kind of optimize through your hosting platform. And that's, where you're kind of keying in your episode description, your call to action, all these other things about that particular episode, like breathing with your balls. It's a great title. I was very proud of it.
Yeah.
I could have said testicles, but I chose balls because balls seemed a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they're better.
No, I'm joking.
I mean, I don't know if would testicles have shown up, with his name. And it's not like this guy was an irrelevant person who's never been part of anything that would be Google searchable. Like, this guy's actually been affiliated with stuff that's way worse.
Yeah.
Or not that it was worse, not that anything we were doing was like controversial at all. It was actually a breathing technique is really all it was.
It's meditation.
Breathing from your
No.
your core and below, building that energy. Educate me, Riley. Talk to me, Goose.
Oh, let's do it. So about bringing guests on. Not only is it easier to talk, some people don't like talking in front of a camera just by themselves, because some people don't like hearing them talk. And then maybe even the listeners don't like to hear just one person for 30 minutes straight talking. So having a guest on, I believe, is a very powerful thing to do as well, because not only can you bounce off ideas, get into different conversations, hear another perspective, you can also give them that link to share, give them the opportunity to let their audience hear your side of the view and your business as well. So
So you leverage every guest's audience that
yeah,
you bring on to your content.
exactly.
And if your guests are, if it's strategically, thought about and they're there for a specific purpose, like they're going to weigh in on, their expertise. If we're talking construction and you bring in, the plumber that has the most certifications out there, he
Yeah.
is the go-to expert on everything plumbing.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And it
he's
could
going
help
to
both you
have,
guys.
yeah, well, absolutely. But, you're providing your audience that expertise that you don't personally have,
Mm,
but then you get to leverage everybody that knows and who has done business with that particular
exactly.
plumber or whatever it is. It could be financial advisor, it could be attorney, it could be any industry expert,
Mhm.
that or someone who's got a wealth of knowledge that will align with your topic for that episode or with your, overall podcast or video, mission,
Mhm. Yeah.
So listen, if you have any questions about content, about, being discovered, feel free to hit us up. Followupmedia.com. You can reach out through our episode description, which is SEO rich.
Mhm.
You can also, we're available on all podcasting platforms. You can join the show. Reach out 770-744-8227. And you can hit us up also at info@followupmedia.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
Riley, anything else to add?
We got 2 studio locations. We'll be here. If you wanna walk right in the door in Alpharetta or East Cobb, then we'll most likely be here. I've told you I have a bunk bed in the back. I will reach you at the door.
I don't know if that scares people, but no, Riley is right. We do have, I didn't even think about even plugging that, but we do have 2 studio locations here in Georgia that are available. And we also set people up remotely to, fill whatever need or whatever way people do want to record.
Yeah.
But we are open. And so if you want to stop by and check out our amazing studios, they're top of the line, state of the art, and we'd be happy to serve you.
For sure.